Welcome to Secrets in the Shadows. I'm William, and today I want to share a heartbreaking story that's as tragic as it is shocking. This is the story of Asunta Basterra Porto, a bright young girl whose life was cut short in a way no one could have ever imagined. It's a story of betrayal, loss, and the darkest secrets hidden behind a picture-perfect family. Before we begin, I must warn you. This story involves sensitive topics, including child abuse and murder. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you're new here, please subscribe to Secrets in the Shadows for more true crime stories that uncover the darkest corners of human nature. Now, let me take you on a journey into the life and tragic death of Asunta Basterra Porto. In the city of Santiago de Compostela, Spain, there lived a little girl named Asunta Yongfang Basterra Porto. Born in China, she was adopted as an infant by Rosario Porto and Alfonso Basterra, a well-respected couple in Spain. Her life seemed like a fairy tale to those who knew her. Her adoptive parents provided her with a comfortable home, private schooling, and endless opportunities to explore her talents. Asunta was a prodigy. Teachers marveled at her quick mind and exceptional abilities, especially in music. She played the piano beautifully and excelled in academics, often impressing adults with her maturity and charm. Classmates adored her, and she had a bright future ahead. She dreamed of becoming a writer or a musician, and even at the young age of 12, she was already making strides toward her dreams. But behind the veneer of this idyllic family, cracks began to show. Asunta's once bright world was clouded by tensions in her home, tensions that would ultimately shatter her life. September 21st, 2013, began like any other day for Asunta. She attended her extracurricular activities, including a piano lesson, and returned home in the afternoon. Later, she left with her adoptive mother, Rosario, for what would be her final car ride. By the evening, Asunta's body was found on a secluded trail near the town of Teo. A couple walking their dog came across her lying motionless on the ground. She was wearing the same clothes she had on earlier that day. The sight was chilling and deeply disturbing. When authorities arrived, they noted the eeriness of the scene. At first glance, there were no signs of physical trauma, but something was clearly wrong. Forensics quickly uncovered the grim reality. Asunta had been drugged with a large dose of lorazepam, a powerful sedative. This drug had rendered her unconscious, and then she was suffocated. The autopsy revealed traces of fibers consistent with a rope used to bind her hands, further pointing to foul play. The small community of Santiago de Compostela was horrified. How could something so vile happen to such a young, vibrant girl? Investigators vowed to find the person responsible, but the answers they uncovered were far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. The investigation into Asunta's death moved swiftly. Authorities started by retracing her final hours. Surveillance footage captured Rosario Porto driving her car near the area where Asunta's body was discovered. This raised immediate questions. Why was Rosario there, and what was she doing? As investigators delved deeper, they uncovered more alarming details. Both Rosario and Alfonso had been purchasing large quantities of lorazepam in the months leading up to Asunta's death. Hair samples taken from Asunta revealed that she had been drugged multiple times before. This wasn't a one-time event. It was a pattern of abuse. In Rosario's home, investigators found damning physical evidence. Fibers from the rope used to bind Asunta's hands matched those from items in the house. Additionally, a handwritten note in Rosario's belongings hinted at strained relationships and dark thoughts, suggesting a premeditated act. Further questioning of Rosario and Alfonso revealed inconsistencies in their alibis. While they both claimed ignorance about Asunta's whereabouts during her final hours, their phone records told a different story. The couple had been in constant communication, plotting and coordinating their next moves. For the authorities, it was becoming increasingly clear that this was not a random crime, but a carefully planned murder. As the investigation progressed, the motive behind this heinous crime began to take shape. Prosecutors argued that Rosario and Alfonso viewed Asunta as a burden. Rosario, in particular, was overwhelmed by financial troubles and her deteriorating mental health. The weight of these issues seemed to shift her perception of Asunta from a beloved daughter to an obstacle in her life. Alfonso, on the other hand, was described as manipulative and emotionally distant. His relationship with Rosario was fraught with tension, but instead of seeking help or leaving, he chose to align himself with her dark plans. Together, they orchestrated a scheme to end Asunta's life, believing they could cover their tracks. What made this crime even more chilling was the deliberate and systematic nature of the abuse. Evidence showed that Asunta had been drugged multiple times over several months, weakening her physically and emotionally. In her final hours, she was completely defenseless against the people she trusted most. The trial of Rosario Porto and Alfonso Basterra began in 2015 and captivated the nation. It was a story of betrayal that felt almost too shocking to be real. The courtroom was filled with journalists, spectators, and grieving supporters of Asunta, all seeking answers and justice. The prosecution presented a compelling case. Surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and testimonies painted a damning picture of the couple's guilt. One of the most devastating pieces of evidence was Asunta's own diary. In its pages, she described feeling unwell and confused after being given medicine by her parents. These entries were a heartbreaking window into the fear and confusion she must have felt in her final days. Witnesses also testified about Rosario's erratic behavior and Alfonso's cold demeanor. Neighbors recounted hearing loud arguments coming from the Porto Basterra household in the weeks leading up to Asunta's death. Teachers and friends described how Asunta had started to appear tired and withdrawn, a stark contrast to her usual vibrant self. The defense tried to cast doubt on the timeline and the credibility of the evidence, but it was not enough. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury found both Rosario and Alfonso guilty of murder. They were each sentenced to 18 years in prison, a decision that brought some measure of closure to those who loved Asunta. The years following the trial were marked by further tragedy and unanswered questions. In 2020, Rosario Porto was found dead in her prison cell, having taken her own life. Her death reopened old wounds for those who had followed the case. Some speculated that guilt and regret had finally caught up with her, while others believed her fragile mental state had worsened in confinement. Alfonso Basterra remains in prison, continuing to serve his sentence. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, he has shown little remorse for his role in Asunta's death. His refusal to take responsibility has only deepened the pain for those who knew and loved the young girl. Asunta's story continues to serve as a haunting reminder of the darkness that can hide behind closed doors. It is a tale of lost innocence and unimaginable betrayal, but it is also a call to action, to protect the vulnerable and to remain vigilant in the face of seemingly perfect facades. Asunta Basterra Porto's life was short, but her memory lives on. She was a bright, talented, and loving girl who deserved so much more than the fate she was given. Her story is a call to vigilance and a reminder to always protect the most vulnerable among us. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey through Secrets in the Shadows. If this story moved you, please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more true crime stories that uncover the darkest truths. Together, we can honor Asunta's memory and ensure her story is never forgotten. Stay safe and remember, the shadows always hold secrets waiting to be revealed.